Hello and welcome to yet another YouTube video here on this channel. This is going to be a longer one, at least that's what I think, because we have a bunch of note-taking apps to go through in this tier list. I will leave timestamps down below so you can check each one out, and I won't go too deep into why I've placed an app where I've placed them. It is highly personal for most of these applications, but I will try to say a few words about why I have placed the app where I've placed it. So let's start off with Notesnook, and I think that Notesnook is probably B or C tier. Let's be a little strict and just put it in C tier. Uh, I feel like it isn't at the level of many of the other note-taking apps, and since this is a tier list and many of the applications on here is a lot better, I will just need to place it in C tier, but I think it does a good job at what it does, being a highly privacy-focused note-taking app, but I still think it is C tier. This is Craft, and I think Craft is. I would place it in A tier. If you use iOS devices, I think it's good on Windows as well, but it is just a lot better on the iOS devices. So if you use iOS devices, I would say A tier. If you use a Windows computer, I would say B tier. But I've mainly used this on iOS devices on my Mac and my iPhone and my iPad, and it is just so fast, and it does in general does a great job at taking notes and giving you everything you need. It is more of a document application, but since it has backlinking and block-based linking, I would place it here as a note-taking app as well. Next one is workflowy, and workflowy is S tier, at least right now. It does everything great. It has everything you need in a note-taking app. It is an outliner application with backlinking and even mirroring, which is something other note-taking apps do not have. I haven't seen it in many other note-taking apps. Um, and mirroring just allows you to mirror one bullet to several different places. Imagine having a file live in several different folders and being synced between all of those folders. That's how mirroring works inside of workflowy. The next application is lazy, and I mean the application is really good, but it is so early that there are still a lot of bugs, things that aren't working, and they don't have a fully functioning web version. It is only available on iOS devices, but all of these things is because it is really early. I think the idea behind the application is good, and we just have to see whether or not they are able to execute on that idea. But as of right now, with the current bugs and problems and not having a fully functional web version or a version to work on Windows, I will place it in D tier. I think that it is worse than something like Notesnook, because Notesnook is a stable application, so it just has to be here. Next up, we have Scrintal, and I would place Scrintal as B tier. These visual note-taking apps, I feel like they have a really specific use case, like a whiteboarding application where you have a lot of different information and you just need to structure it. I feel like that's the main selling point of these applications. I am a highly visual person myself, so I love using these, but uh, as I've done my research on them and looked online and looked in comment sections, I feel like these visual whiteboarding applications have like a really specific use case. And I still think that Scrintal needs a little bit more of development, still not having a mobile application, not even a capture application, just makes it a little worse, but it is really good on the computer, and I've tested it on my iPad as well. just going into Safari and going into Scrintal and using it there works quite well. So OK application still needs development. Let's do Amplenote, and I would say that Amplenote is actually A tier. The UI might seem a little old, but the application is really good. It is fast, it does everything you need to, and it is probably the best for managing your tasks inside of a note-taking app. I haven't seen a note-taking app be able to manage tasks as good as Amplenote does it, so that's why I think it deserves an A tier, and a lot of these applications on here are actually really good, and it is hard like placing Scrintal at a B tier, Notesnook at a C tier. The whole like every single one of these applications are really really good, but I would say that they are for specific use cases, and that's why this gets highly personal. Let's do OneNote, and I think OneNote is S tier. I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves for being such a good note-taking app. It is hate, not necessarily hated, but I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. It is sort of like a meme using OneNote, but the application is really good. It combines seamlessly into the Microsoft ecosystem, but apart from that, it allows you to draw. It is good for doing math equations. It is good for students. It is even good for people, busy professionals who just wants to an easy way to take notes. The notebook structure feels similar to everyone who's new to note taking, so I would place this in S tier. It also has great optical character recognition, so you can save images and search for images, so that's really good. Search for text within images and things like that. So I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Also has a great web clipper if you haven't tried that out. Let's do twos. I would place this in A tier just because of the simplicity and just having the ability to easily use the application. They have been very thoughtful about how they have developed it, having the daily notes where you can just put things into and then organize them later by marking a bunch of them and moving them into a list. The idea of lists is also very similar or very familiar to most of us, so it is easy to get into. It is an all-in-one solution for your events, your tasks, and your notes, but it is really simple to use compared to a lot of the other all-in-one applications. So I would say that, for example, Amplenote, that is a good application, isn't as simple as Two's. You still have to do a couple more things inside of Amplenote and learn a couple more things inside of Amplenote to get it to work the way you want to. Again, highly personal, but Tools is actually one of the apps I personally use on a daily basis, so I might be a little biased. Next one is Anytype. And Anytype is probably, I would say, A tier. It is. I was debating whether or not it is A or B tier because Anytype, again, the idea is amazing. One of the applications I've used a lot and I like. And the idea is really good, but it got out of the alpha stage back in April, May. And it is still in beta. It has a few bugs. Sometimes it doesn't work the way I want it to work. I had a problem a couple of months ago where it would not open, so I had to delete the application and download it again. And it has these bugs that makes it really annoying to use. Actually, I will put it in B tier, and that is it isn't because the application is bad, it is just that it is so new, and it still needs time to develop and become stable. I feel like, for example, Two's had a lot of these bugs earlier in the year, but I think that most of them have been resolved. I at least haven't experienced any of them recently, but in Anytype I have experienced some of them. But I would say that when Anytype comes out as a full-on application, I would probably place it in S tier. The idea is really good, and the execution so far has been really good. It is just that it takes time to develop something like Anytype. It would be crazy to think that everything would be perfect already in the beta stage. So that's why it gets a B tier. Next up is Heptabase, and Heptabase is probably an S tier. I said that these highly visual, like whiteboarding applications, are have a specific use case. And even though I think that Heptabase also has a specific use case, I think that the way they have developed the application, the way it works with now the ability to manage tasks as well, the database functionality, which it also has, so you can both see your notes as a whiteboard, but you can also see it as a highly structured format inside of databases. I think that it makes Heptabase an S tier application. Next up is Mem, and I would put Mem at E tier. I even think it is a little worse than something like Lazy. And I've talked about Mem before a few times. I am just not a big fan of the application. I don't like that the only easy way I can find my notes is through the chat interface or through search. I can't organize properly except from the tags, but you also get a timeline view in your tags as well. I don't like the user interface of it. I don't like the fact that they removed the tasks, but if you use the Mac version, which I did for a while, you have the old interface inside of there, so they didn't remove the interface everywhere. They might have done it now, but just a couple of months ago, or I think it was back in April or something, they hadn't removed the old interface on the Mac application, and I feel like it had a huge advantage, but um, one of the most important things inside of a note-taking app is the note-taking experience. So the ability to take notes and just the basic things you expect inside of a note-taking application. That is taking notes. It is some sort of easy task management, so I don't have to jump into another application. And I even tried using the chat interface to find my to-dos, didn't work properly. Um, and I feel like they had an advantage, but since they weren't able to convert on that advantage with the AI and having AI organize all of the notes for you, I feel like there are other applications that does things a little bit better. One of them being Reflect, which I think is S tier. I think that it is an amazing application, and this application right here is what Mem promised and Reflect is doing. Super fast application, offline availability. It has basic task management. It has the Whisper integration, which allows you to speak your notes. So many great things about Reflect, and it really deserves the S tier. It is probably an easier way to get into backlink note taking than something like Obsidian, which is next on the list. And Obsidian is, of course, list one of the applications I struggle with to use, but still a really powerful application. Has a learning curve to it, but once you learn Obsidian, you have the most powerful note-taking app. Only a couple of things it can't do. I would say it isn't the best for storing a lot of visual things like images. If you want to store a lot of images inside of it, it isn't the best for that. Uh, then I would recommend another application. But if you're into note taking and taking notes with mainly text, it of course can save some images, but if you mainly save images, I would recommend another application. But if you take notes using text, probably not a better application out there if you are willing to learn Obsidian. On the other hand, it isn't for everyone because it is so hard to learn and it takes a while to get used to. And that's why some people uh, haven't gotten into using Obsidian. It is, I would say, a highly nerdy tool for people who are really into personal knowledge management or people who are tech savvy. I think that it is an amazing application, but it isn't mainstream at all, and I don't think that it will ever become mainstream. Next up is Milanote. I would say that this is A tier. This is probably the best tool for designers and people who work in design. Great for storing visual things like images, files. It can store Adobe Creative Cloud files. So one of the best, if not the best, for visual note taking. Another visual application, which I will put in B tier, is Mymind. This is also a great idea. This is actually one of the apps I do use every single day. It does an amazing job at saving things from the web and organizing things for you. So, again, the promise of Mem inside of here. One problem I've had with this app is that it has some minor bugs, like really minor, but since I'm going to be really strict in this video, I will have to put it in B tier, but we have things like uh, not working properly on mobile, so I have to click 2 times to get the note I want. When I save a picture, it changes the color of what's called a mind note, and sometimes the color changes to black, which means that I can't read anything I write down. But again, it is like really minor things. You can work around them. You can still use the application, and I still do use the application every single day. It is one of my favorites, and I recommend it to everyone I meet. But for this video, it will end up in B tier. I will do an updated version of this in 6 months or so to see how all of these applications have developed. Tana, I would say that Tana is a stair quite similar to something like Obsidian in the way that it has a huge learning curve, but they are doing amazing things with AI. And the application overall, amazing, does a good job at everything. You can have your notes in more of a research format where you just have a lot of bullet points linked together, or you can add the super tags just like in Heptabase. Add tags and you will get databases. That is really, really cool. Um, Next up on the list is Stashpad lists. This is an F tier. I hate it. And not because the note-taking experience is so terrible, but it feels like an Apple Note version of Apple Notes, except that it costs you a lot more, and I just don't think it is worth it. But Stashpad Docs is a lot better. That is something I really recommend to people, but the note-taking app, not really. Affine, I would put this in D tier and C tier, sorry. Great application. Love the idea. Still really, really early days. Some bugs, some missing features. I would like to see something like linked databases inside of the app. Uh, The whiteboarding sometimes does not work as I want it to, but again, just like Anytype, it is just so new, and you have to be patient and give this time to develop. Napkin Notes is another one of these visual note-taking apps. I would put this in. This is really hard because I haven't used it extensively, so I don't know every single bug it has, but I think it is A tier, and this is also a new application. This uses AI to connect your notes together, and I have tested it a couple of times. It does a good job, but I haven't had enough notes inside of it to test it properly, but I will give it an A tier for or actually, I will give it a B tier. I think it is at the level of Mymind. This is really hard, actually, doing a tier list like this, but B tier, I would say that it is at the level of Mymind and Anytype. I think B tier is good. Supernotes is A tier, great application. Again, a fast one, easy to learn, great if you're a student, but also great if you are a personal knowledge management lover. Also has a beautiful graph view that I like a lot. Yeah, just in general, great application. Next one on the list is actually Remnote. I will put this in A tier. I think that it is a good application, but again, their main selling point is students, and I think that it is a lot better for students than for everyone else. Okay application overall, best for students, not at the level of these apps up here. Next up is Noteplan, and again, this is an application I haven't tested out extensively. I think that it is really good, but it is only available on iOS, so I will drag it down a little bit. It is A tier for that reason, but I tested it out for a week or two, and it is a really good application. One of the best at um, at doing note taking with to-dos and calendar and just like Amplenote. So I would say that this is the Apple version of this. Looks a lot more beautiful than something like Amplenote, but basically does some of the same things. Xtiles, I would say that Xtiles is C tier. I am just personally not a big fan of the application. When it comes to note taking, I feel like it is more of a project management application than a note taking application. Has a bit of a learning curve to it and feels really like Notion. So quite similar to Notion. If you're looking for a more visual approach to Notion, Xtiles might be the app for you, but I tend to end up doing more organization inside of an app like this than actual work. That's why I use Mymind personally, because I can't spend too much time organizing. There isn't too much organizing to do. This is ZenKit Hypernotes. I would say that it is at the level of these apps right here. Maybe a little bit better. I would probably place it here if I could, in the middle of A and B tier. Great application, easy to use, a familiar interface for everyone who likes note taking. And not much more to say about it. I have, again, one of the applications I haven't tested extensively, but I have used it for 2 or 3 weeks, and it is a great application. I will place it in B tier. Capacities is really hard because I think the application is really good. I've heard a lot of great things about it, but I haven't been able to understand it myself. But given all of the feedback I've seen, all of the YouTube videos I've seen, I would say that this is S tier. The idea is really good. I think they're lacking in one place, and that is the fact that I would like to see an offline see it be available offline as well. And apart from that, I think that it is one of the best applications out there. I like object-based note-taking. I like the idea of object-based note-taking. So capacities, Anytype, even Tana can be seen as object-based note-taking, and I think that in the future more of us will lean towards object-based note-taking. The last app is Acereom. I think that's how you pronounce it. Again, one of the apps I haven't tested out too extensively, but after what I've tested it for, I would place it as B tier. This is probably best for developers. That is also who they are trying to sell to. As usual, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any thoughts about the tier list, please do leave them down below. As I've said, it is highly personal, and note taking in general is highly personal. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I will try to get to them as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you had at least a little fun, because that's what this video is all about, fun.